HMS Caroline was built by Camille Laird of Birkenhead. She was laid down on the 28th of January, 1914, and launched on the 29th of September, 1914, but was later completed in December of 1914. Caroline was part of the early subset of C-class light cruisers built without geared steam turbines. Subsequent comparisons with later vessels of the same class demonstrated the superiority of geared propulsion. Caroline's machinery is still in place today, although not in working order. The Caroline class were all ordered in July and August of 1913 as the first of 8 light armored cruisers under the 1913 programme. The ships were launched in 1914 or 1915 and commissioned in 1915. They had an armament of 2 single 6-inch aft, 8 4-inch, and 2 6-pounder guns. Their anti-aircraft guns, or AA guns, weaponry consisted of 4 3-pounders. Their aft 6-inch guns were super-firing. The class had 3 funnels. During the First World War, the ships of the class underwent a variety of alterations, including the removal of the 4-inch 102mm guns in Caroline, Carstfort, and Comus, being replaced by 2 extra 6-inch 152mm guns, while Cieltopreta, Conquest, and Cordelia retained 1 or 2 of the 4-inch 102mm guns, with 2 2-pounder guns being added to the sum of the ships. Caroline was commissioned on the 4th of December, 1914, and served in the North Sea throughout the First World War. Upon commissioning, she joined the Grand Fleet based at Scapa Flow in the Orkney Islands, serving as the leader of the 4th Destroyer Flotilla. She was part of the Grand Fleet's 1st Light Cruiser Squadron from February to November of 1915. In early 1916, she joined the Grand Fleet's 4th Light Cruiser Squadron and remained with it, fighting as part of it at the Battle of Jutland on the 31st of May through the 1st of June, 1916, under the command of Captain Henry R. Crookey through the end of the war in November of 1918. From 1917 until late 1918, she carried a flying-off platform for the launching of Royal Naval Air Service and later Royal Air Force fighters to intercept German airships operating over the North Sea. Caroline remained in the 4th Light Cruiser Squadron after World War I, and in June of 1919, went with the rest of the squadron to serve on the East Indies station. In February of 1922, she was paid off into dry dock control and was placed in reserve. She came out of reserve in February of 1924 to become a headquarters and training ship for the Royal Navy Volunteer Reserve's Ulster Division at Belfast, Northern Ireland, officially beginning those duties on the 1st of April 1924. Harland and Wolff of Belfast removed her weaponry and some of her boilers around 1924. After her arrival in Belfast, her guns were pulled with those of other decommissioned cruisers and used to reinforce the coastal defenses off the treaty ports. From 1939 until 1945, during the Second World War, Caroline served as the Royal Navy's headquarters in Belfast Harbour, which was used as a home base for many of the warships escorting Atlantic and Arctic convoys, including Captain-class frigates of the 3rd Escort Group. As Belfast developed into a major naval base during the Second World War, its headquarters outgrew the confines of the HMS Caroline herself and occupied different establishments in various parts of the city. Eventually, several thousand ratings were wearing Caroline Cape tallies. The first such establishment was set up in the Belfast Custom House. Later, Belfast Castle was taken over, included a radio station. There were depth charge pistol and hedgehog repair workshops associated with HMS Caroline, some of which would have been on the quarries beside her berth in Millie Water Basin. During the early part of the Second World War, when RAF Belfast occupied Sydenham, Belfast Harbour Airfield, Fleet Air Arm personnel based there were logged under HMS Caroline. In 1943, the airfield was transferred to the Admiralty and commissioned as HMS Gadwall. After the Second World War, the Royal Navy returned Caroline to the Royal Navy Volunteer Reserve, and she served as its last afloat training establishment. She underwent a refit at Harland and Wolff in Belfast in 1951. The Royal Naval Reserve unit decommissioned from the ship in December of 2009, moved ashore and recommissioned as the Stone Frigate, HMS Hinderney. Caroline herself was decommissioned on the 31st of March 2011. In a traditional ceremony, her ensign was laid up in St. Anne's Cathedral in Belfast. Caroline is listed as part of the National Historical Fleet. On her decommissioning, she was placed into the care of the National Museum of the Royal Navy at Portsmouth, though remaining moored in her position at Alexandra Dock in Belfast. Although no longer capable of making way under her own power, Caroline remained afloat and in excellent condition. Buffeting from waves and high winds have caused the ship to almost come away from her moorings several times. In 2005, during a storm, she ripped several huge bollards off the jetty concrete, but failed to break free entirely. She was not normally open to tourists, although an entrance was gained during the annual RMS Titanic celebrations. Upon Caroline's decommissioning in 2011, her future was uncertain. Proposals were made to return the ship to her First World War appearance, which, among other things, would have involved sourcing and installing 6-inch 152.4mm and 4-inch 102mm guns of that era, and removing the large deckhouse from her amidships deck. One proposal considered was to remain in Belfast as a museum ship within the Titanic Quarter development alongside SS Nomdic. Another proposal was a move to Portsmouth, with many of her original fittings restored to her as much as possible to her First World War appearance. In June of 2012, plans to move Caroline to Portsmouth were announced, subject to the availability of funding. However, in October of 2012, the Northern Ireland government announced that the ship would remain in Belfast, and that the National Heritage Memorial Fund had pledged €1 million to help to restore her. In May of 2013, the Heritage Lottery Fund announced an €845,600 grant to support conversion work as a museum. In October of 2014, the Heritage Lottery Fund announced a €12 million lottery funding boost to enable the National Museum of the Royal Navy to turn Caroline into a visitor attraction in time for centenary commemorates on the 1916 Battle of Jutland. Caroline remained moored in Alexandra Dock in the Titanic Quarter in Belfast. During the restoration, the steam turbines, which were left in place after her active service life ended, were conserved. The Person turbines were stripped of afloats and preserved for those visiting to see. In June of 2016, HMS Caroline was opened to the public as a museum ship and forms part of the National Museum of the Royal Navy. HMS Caroline was dry docked in late 2016. She was towed a short distance into dry dock to have hull inspection, clean, and repaint. She returned to the Alexandra Dock on completion of the works and was placed into the dock stern first. In April of 2019, she was one of 5 finalists on the shortlist for the Art Fund Museum of the Year award. She was also shortlisted on 2 categories for the RICS awarded in 2019. Along with other tourist attractions, HMS Caroline closed their doors to the public on the 17th of March, 2020, owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. The funding package from the Department of the Economy for HMS Caroline to cover any shortfall in meeting costs was in place until June of 2020. The resulting funding gap threatened the continuation of HMS Caroline as a going concern in Belfast. Talks over a new funding agreement between the DFE and the NMRN were ongoing. A new funding package was announced that would allow HMS Caroline to reopen, in order to keep her in Belfast until at least 2038. The reopening of Caroline to the general public from the 1st of April 2023 was announced by the NMRN. At her decommissioning in 2011, Caroline held the title of the second oldest ship in the Royal Navy service, behind HMS Victory, as well as being the final World War I British light cruiser in service. She is the last survivor of the Battle of Jutland. And that does conclude today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do go hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you guys are interested in seeing the HMS Caroline, you can do so by visiting Belfast, and you can find her in her mooring spot. I would highly recommend checking what times they are open and closed before you start making trips, because of I guess European restrictions or something like that can differ on how they are going to be open or not. But if you guys really wanted to go see her, this is a highly recommended spot to go and visit. If you manage to catch Jetfield Ways there, that'd be cool as well. But with that being said, I have put a couple of books or links to books down in the description below, so if you guys want to read up more on this infamous light cruiser, I would highly recommend that as well. Now, with that being said, again, please go hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell if you guys did enjoy it and want to see more. Please leave a comment down below if you guys have any questions, concerns, or suggestions of any kind. Come join the Discord server. Link is as always in the description. And with that being said, I thank you all for watching. I hope you guys all have a great day, and I hope the seas are fair to you guys. And I shall see you all in the next video. Peace out.